While fewer checks are being written these days, check fraud continues to be widespread and it's surging. And many victims might not even know it's happened to them.
That was the case when consumer investigative reporter Susan Hogan went knocking on a door in Northern Virginia.
Hello. Hi there, I'm Susan Hogan from NBC4. I'm sorry to come up and surprise you like this.
This false church man did not expect to get a visit from the News4 I-Team.
Is it okay if we chatted with you?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
But that didn't mean he wasn't familiar with what we wanted to talk to him about.
Oh, I'm becoming an expert. I probably know as much about this crap as anybody.
He agreed to talk with us if we didn't show his face, since this, unfortunately, is not the first time dealing with stolen checks. He just didn't know about this time until we told him.
This one knocked my socks off.
6 of his checks, written and mailed in July, stolen and found for sale on the social media app Telegram, along with dozens of others from the Falls Church and Arlington area.
So it looks like the criminals hit one specific mailbox or two in those specific areas.
The stolen checks were just discovered by David Maimon, the director of the evidence-based Cybersecurity Research Group at Georgia State University.
What the team does on a daily basis is simply monitor hundreds of groups, trying to find interesting information for us to work with, monitor trends on the ecosystem, in order to really try and understand what the criminals are working on, what are some of the hot commodities that they have on their disposal, and what is it that they're offering for sale.
He says the sheer number of stolen checks, all from the same area, and private information brazenly shown, quickly caught his team's eye. News 4 blurred the personal information.
It's not even covering the addresses and names of the victims. This was kind of unusual in this ecosystem.
When checks are stolen from the mail, they're usually washed, the ink removed, so that criminals can change the payee name and dollar amount. But those checks are also being sold to the highest bidder online and often bundled with other stolen information, says identity theft expert James Lee.
Where they sell them, though, is not on the dark web so much as it is now YouTube and Telegram and other channels that are in the open. You can get checks, you can get driver's license, you can get state IDs, you can get debit cards, all tied to the same identity, all tied to the same accounts.
When it comes to check fraud, the I-Team found last year banks filed almost 700,000 suspicious activity reports with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. So far in 2024, more than 300,000 have been filed.
The first time that this happened, which was about 8 months ago.
Our homeowner in Falls Church says this is the third time he's been a victim of check fraud. He says, fortunately, his banks caught the suspicious activity.
So far, I've not been out any money, but I've been into a lot of aggravation.
Lee says the safest way to avoid check fraud is simply not to write checks.
So if it's so important, go ahead and get tracking on it. If not, check with the organization after a certain amount of time and say, did you receive my check? So you can begin to trace it if it doesn't show up in time.
And he says avoid dropping checks in blue boxes if possible.
So I no longer put things in the mailbox. I go directly to the post office.
Though that didn't seem to stop this latest financial frustration.
Are you going to call your bank after we've just alerted you to this?
You think?
You think? Yeah. So very good-natured, but still very frustrated. Now, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, which investigates mail theft, would not confirm to the I-Team if the stolen checks in Falls Church were being investigated. Bottom line, though, if you find that your checks have been stolen, notify your bank immediately. You're going to need to make sure you get a new checking account number and also always freeze your credit and sign up for alerts with any accounts to make sure that you can monitor all of that activity.
There's so much aggravation involved, though.
Right?
You have to correct what's happened to you. And it kept happening to this poor man multiple times.
3 times, exactly.
He's so glad you knocked on his door.
Yeah, I know, right? He wasn't at first. He was like, who are you? What are you doing? But yeah, the bottom line is you just have to be careful. People are writing checks. You still have to in some cases. Just know that this can happen and you just need to stay alert.
Stay aware. Right. And you're giving us tips to do just that. Susan, thanks so much.
Of course.